So we're going to answer as many questions as we can today. And the pre-submitted questions are the ones that we're going to be addressing first. That doesn't mean you can't ask a question in the chat. In fact, we would hope that you guys would have some follow-up questions to what we're addressing. And we welcome some questions that we weren't even asked that could be asked live. That being said, if we have time to answer questions asked live, we will. If we don't get to them by the end of the event, know that we will take those after the event offline and go ahead and answer them, and we'll be posting those answers in the Zendesk Help Center. There will also be a video recording that will be sent out to everybody who attended this event or registered event where you can watch the answers being said or being addressed, and we'll go ahead and include a link to that article from the Help Center. Now, if you did attend this event, ask a question, and notice that your question didn't get addressed today, that could be for a couple reasons. The first being you might have asked questions on our roadmap that we're not really ready to talk about yet. We're going to answer as many feedback questions as we can today, but we don't want to go ahead in terms of product development or the roadmap that we're just not ready to talk about yet because we don't want to promise things that we absolutely can't deliver on right now. The other reason might be the question you asked might be really complex, meaning what you asked could be in itself its own event. Questions like that, we will try to answer the best that we can offline, but there is a chance we might not be able to answer that fully to the way that I think you guys were asking. If you walk away wanting a little bit more clarification or needing your question addressed a little bit further, go ahead and post on the help article that we're going to be posting after this event, or go ahead and ask a question in the community and we'll make sure somebody goes ahead and addresses that for you. But if you do walk away being like, hey, I didn't really get that answer, please try to reach out to us and let us know, because we want to go ahead and make sure that your questions are getting addressed, at least either today's event or in the future. With that being said, let's get to the people who are going to be answering your questions today from the messaging team. You might recognize him from last messaging event we had, Paul Lalonde. Thanks, Paul, for joining us again. Your last event was quite fantastic, and it definitely drawed up a lot of buzz, so we're really happy to have you back. And if you're talking, we can't hear you because you're muted.
Of course, I had to do that. Yes, I put myself on mute for 1 second and then started talking. Thanks so much for having me. I hope some people came to join us again from last event. It was really a pleasure to get in front of everybody and talk a little bit about messaging.
Honestly, I don't think we've had as much buzz about an event as we did the messaging one, so I'm really glad that you and your team can kind of come over and ask some questions or answer some questions that were asked today. Yeah, also with us, we have Jacob, and I'm again, let me know if I am mispronouncing last names. Jacob Glodek.
That's me.
Nailed it. Perfect. From the product team, as well as Lawrence
Ing.
Lawrence awesome.
Ing.
You know what? I
knew it would come out.
I was going to try to attempt it, and I'm like, you know what? No way.
I'll just finish it.
So, and we also have Palomi Batra as well from the product team. So thanks everyone for joining us. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into this with our first question submitted from one of our users. And that is, would messaging work with a help center that users must log into access? I believe Paul,
you got to take yourself off mute one more time.
Yeah.
I did it again. Sorry, guys.
And I believe you have a demo for us regarding this.
I do. I was just going to quickly show my screen. Do you have to stop sharing your screen for me to be able to? I think that's what I need to do, right?
You should be able to go ahead and share it now.
Awesome. Okay. So while I was muted, I said that the answer is yes. You can add messaging to any help center, whether it be public or private. There aren't any restrictions in that regard. In fact, you can add messaging to any web page that you like. It doesn't have to be like your. I'll show you how you can do this here. It's pretty straightforward. If I go into, I'm going to use this same streamer instance, by the way. It's just a demo instance that we use when we're showcasing the Zendesk messaging to customers. And what I showed last time I was here, and for those who weren't here, this is just the admin panel. We would go in and configure our Zendesk messaging web widget, as well as our flow builder configuration. Won't get back into that this time around, but just to kind of set the stage as to where we are within the admin center. And say I wanted to go and plug in my Zendesk messaging web SDK on a website. I would go inside the channel setup like I was just in, find my streamer instance, and I would click on this installation tab here. And basically all you need to do is take this snippet and add it. It's just HTML code. You take it, you add it to whatever web page you like. And as soon as you've put that little piece of code on your website, you're done. But we do also offer this handy little, if you don't know anything about HTML, you can also just click this button here and it's automatically going to embed the web SDK into your help center as well. So you've got both options.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Paul. Our next question, how does messaging know when to create a new ticket? Is the whole chat history a parent ticket with child tickets?
I'll take that one as well. Another good question. I know that this tends to come up a lot because this notion of like an ongoing conversation in a ticket-based environment can sometimes be a little bit irreconcilable, or some people may see it as a bit irreconcilable as a concept, but it's not really. It's just from the end user perspective, you can think about messaging as an ongoing conversation where the entire conversation history is entirely visible to an end user at all times. But from an agent perspective is where that notion of tickets comes into play. And just like any other channel inside of the Zendesk suite, that notion of tickets, it still exists and will apply to messaging channels as well. And the same rules or logic that you would apply within your Zendesk instance for configuring channels would also apply to messaging as well. So, if your ticket is going to stay open for as long as an agent is working on a particular case from a customer. And the only time that a new ticket is going to get created is when it moves from solved to closed. And so like that ticket closure, the active ticket closure is what is going to create a new ticket within Zendesk, which will show up as a separate ticket inside of your Zendesk instance. You can see the previous ticket in the interaction tab of our agent workspace. I'm not sure if you want me to show that as well quickly, Devin. I could just do a quick orientation of what I mean here if we have time.
I think we do have time, and honestly, I think that would be fantastic if you could go ahead and show that a little bit and give some context to it.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that. No problem. So just bring my screen back up for a second here. So first, like what I was talking about, like from an agent perspective, I'm on the Streamer Help Center here where we have our web widget installed. And what I can actually do is see some of the conversation history that I started a little bit earlier before joining this call that I was having with AnswerBot here. And I'm reaching that point where I'm about to escalate my case over to an agent for assistance, which is going to get the ticket to go into the Streamer Zendesk instance that I'm working from. So let me just finish creating this ticket. And I will show you what happens next. So I have a new chat coming in. I'm going to accept it. So you can see here the conversation being carried over into the Zendesk agent workspace. You can see the interactions that I've had here. Now I'm just going to switch to a different instance where you can actually see a list of interactions that I've already had with Streamer. The reason that you're not seeing it right now, in case you're curious, like being carried over into the exact same user profile is because I'm working out of incognito mode and it's just for demo purposes only. But like this is what you would normally see here. You would see a full list of interaction history that I would have had once my tickets were moved from solved into closed. Now I can show you what that would actually happen in the inside of the ticket that I just opened. Let's say I fully resolve the issue. I say I solve it out. What ends up happening from the end user perspective, and we'll get into this. I think another question is about CSAT, but essentially, like, you know, this basically will close out that conversation with the end user, and it'll trigger another ticket the next time that the agent, the end user reaches out for response. I'll stop sharing. Hopefully that answered the question.
I definitely think it did. And thank you for taking the time to kind of show that end product. I feel like that's such a valuable thing for people to learn from, just seeing us kind of do it live like that. Our next question, and I think this is for you, Paul, as well, if I'm not mistaken, is how do I manage the ability for customers to use messaging when I have a limited number of agents?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I think what it sounds like is, like the way that I read the question is, it looks like you're looking for the ability to hide the messaging widget from the end user when no agents are available, or when the number of agents maybe falls beneath a certain threshold. Now, unfortunately, I'm being a bit of a bearer of bad news. That's a feature that doesn't exist today, but it's something that a lot of customers have asked for. And the good news is that we're actively working on getting that feature out and available to you all. What we do offer as a workaround for the time being, in the absence of being actually able to hide the messaging widget automatically, like out of the box, is you can actually set triggers to send an out of office message when the account status is set to offline. We have a Help Center article that you can actually access that explains actually how to do this if you go into the live chat and messaging section of the Zendesk Support Help Center. And there's an entire article step-by-step that explains how you can go ahead and set that offline message as a workaround to this for the moment.
Yeah, I think the other thing is sort of thing to consider is like it's a different model. I think, you know, that's come out before about messaging is different from chat. Setting an expectation could be relevant in this scenario. So the autoresponder that Paul mentioned is helpful. Also think about using the language within your messaging window to kind of move away from live chat to messaging. So think about, you know, welcome to messaging. These are our hours of operation. Our typical response times are X, Y, and Z before they actually get to the transfer to agent step. That's going to help just set expectations before they're sort of disappointed if they're, you know, they later find out their message is not going to be replied to immediately. So a different shift in thought when you're kind of moving from chat to messaging, which may help out.
Now you're muted, Devin.
There. Yeah, there we go. It wouldn't. All right. So check off your bingo box. Host muted during presentation. Jamie asked a quick follow-up. She asked, I thought the Zendesk chat status did not apply to messaging status. I'm not sure if that's something maybe we can clarify offline, but just wanted to throw that out there before we moved on.
So I think what Jamie's probably referring to is an agent workspace. You have a concept, in chat statuses, we have a concept of online, offline, and those types of pieces. Those statuses are definitely linked to the routing capabilities of chat, not as much as the connection of those channels into Agent Workspace. So although you may be offline, all of your agents are offline, in the same way where chat gives you an option to receive an offline message, messaging exists forever. And so that's why it's a little bit, the statuses do influence how the chats are handled, but from an end user perspective, it doesn't influence whether or not they're able to reach out to you. And a part of this also is the messaging paradigm, or why we're looking at messaging and talking about asynchronous messaging, is actually a lot of this is established and controlled by other systems. What I mean by that is your iMessage on your phone, or your Google Chat, or taking Facebook Messenger. These are channels that consumers are using as, and what they perceive as normal. And so that's why those channels never go offline. You can always text your best friend at 3 a.m. to try to get a hold of them or wake them up, whatever way you want to treat them. And that's the same thing that is now happening with businesses. You are able to be reached out at any time across these channels. And so the tools here, or the strategy, is setting the right expectation with the users. We have a concept of offline hours, setting the expectation with the user that says, hey, there's nobody here. It's 3 a.m. I'm sleeping. Let me get back to you when better hours are there. And the other piece with using these types of channels is that I now can take that conversation and put it in my pocket and re-engage with you later as a consumer. This was not possible when chat was asynchronous on a website and you had to actually stare at the screen. I would say that this is the equivalent of going from a landline at your home, where you had your phone next to you, and if you wanted to receive a phone call, you needed to sit there and get your phone call, to now having a mobile and a cell phone where you can take that conversation with you. So this is just a natural evolution in that same line.
Thanks for clarifying that, Jacob. I think the visual of jumping from landline to present day communication is quite groundbreaking, at least on what we're providing today. And just real quick, I do want to touch on some questions that are being answered in the Q&A section. Seth, I know you asked if there was an additional cost for messaging. Nope, it comes available with the Zendesk Suite. And can we remove or change the AnswerBot branding? And the answer to that, currently you cannot change the AnswerBot branding, but we're working on giving customers more flexibility with the look and feel, so it's on the roadmap. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next question. Can messaging be limited to only those who sign in, for example, a closed environment?
I think Paul was able to answer part of that. I think let me dive a little bit deeper into that. That JavaScript code that Paul was talking about in the first question can be deployed anywhere. And so you can, especially let's say you're using our Help Center or our Guide product, you have an option to restrict certain pages to certain users. And if you deployed the code only on that page, it would only be available to start having a conversation on that page. You can also manipulate that through JavaScript, where the widget doesn't even load in certain scenarios. So you have full control, but it is something that is more developer driven, because you are deciding that customer journey on the end user side. So definitely, if your developers have questions, have them reach out to us, but it is something that does require some code. But you can control where it comes in. You can even control it. If you want it to be a little bit more open, you could put a bot in that determines whether or not it progresses the user to a live agent, for example. These are all different ways to do it. It just really depends on what you want as your customer journey.
Great stuff. Thank you. Next up, we have, how do you measure customer satisfaction in Zendesk messaging? I'm not surprised we got a CSAT question regarding this, considering what the topic is.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take that one. I think first off, it's a good question because when we first introduced messaging a couple of months back, that feature was one that was widely requested and that wasn't a part of our beta launch of messaging. And so I think a lot of people who were looking at it were holding off on even thinking about implementing it because it just isn't a feature that we had ready in time for when we went live with it back in November. Things have changed. The good news to report now is that a CSAT collection is available. It's available out of the box. And as long as you've turned on CSAT within your Zendesk instance, it's automatically going to apply to the messaging channels that you've activated as well. I can quickly show you what CSAT looks like. It actually popped up on my screen before when I was demoing something earlier. But if you want me to take like a quick 30 seconds, I can just show really quickly where like how CSAT actually looks to an end user and at what point it gets triggered within a ticket.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I personally would love to see this too. So let's go ahead and show that to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, this is going to be super quick, probably 30 seconds or so, but totally worth seeing. Get the screen up here again. Right, so let's assume that while we were answering other questions, I just set up another incognito window here to go through a fresh, instance of Fantastic, looking for some help from Streamer. This time can't watch the Masked Singer, so need some help getting connected. I already got this ticket inside as an agent. I logged in. I already picked up the ticket. Let's say that I've resolved the issue. I can watch the Masked Singer now. I go back into this, solving out the ticket. Assuming some time has passed here, then on the side of the end user, what we see is a quick, how did your chat go, good or bad? These are some quick replies as soon as I say like, hey, it was great. Then that is collected as the CSAT, answer response. And then what normally will happen as well, and I don't know why it didn't happen, it usually asks you a little question to fill in a bit more. Usually what you'll get is a little box where you can add a little bit more information. It might just be because I've done this a couple of times now, but you should see a box. I don't know why you don't see a box right now. Just free text to answer something about, if you want to add any more information about how the CSAT, how the interaction was.
Thanks, Paul. And just to kind of follow up some questions that we're still getting live, by the way, thanks for these. These have been really great. And we'll be posting the questions you guys are answering live in our summary article, as well as the ones that were submitted ahead of time. But Maria asks, we have a different user segment within our Zendesk, which would each need their own answer bot pathways. Is this supported so we can have a unique answer bot for each specific segment? And the answer to that is you can build flows per brand with Zendesk messaging. And if that's not what you're elaborating on, let us know and we'll go ahead and touch back with you again and try to clarify that answer a little bit more. And again, for those who do have questions, we do have Palomi right now in the Q&A chat, so feel free to go ahead and keep asking those, and we will go ahead and try to address those as best as we can. But moving on to our next question, if we could please. How do I implement agent group routing?
I think I'll take that one as well, actually. So if you want to take advantage of routing conversations initiated via messaging to specific groups, you can definitely do this. The way that you would do it is similar to the way that you would set up, like you first actually need to go in and configure a group. And so you would go first do that, and then you would, after you configured a group, you'd use your support triggers where the action taken in that trigger is to assign that group to the messaging channel that you would have set up. I have this pre-configured in the demo instance that I've been showing things from. I could always show you sort of how this was already set up if it's useful. but also like conscious of time if we want to just try and get through other questions as well. There's a Help Center article we could always follow up with if we want to do that as well.
I know we do have a couple more questions. I would say if it's short, let's go ahead and show it. Otherwise, we can go ahead and link the Help Center article, and just so that way we can make sure we're getting to every question today.
Yeah, it's still probably going to take a minute or two to walk through. So it's probably easier to follow up with like a step-by-step sort of just like explanation of how you would go about doing that. There's some good information in our Help Center about it.
Okay, perfect. And we actually do have some people asking for the Help Center article, so that will be a great way to go ahead and get some examples in the hands of users.
Yep.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and move on to our next question. How do Explorer and metrics work for this product, like data sets?
Yeah, so I'll take that one as well. Messaging reports are available on the support dashboard in Explorer. Basically, there's a number of pre-built dashboards that will display your support data where you can filter metrics by messaging channels using the ticket channel filter. And so like all of those metrics, they are tied to tickets. Sometimes people come up and they're asking like, do I have the same metrics that I have in chat? The answer is that messaging metrics today are tied to tickets at the moment. You can use like the support tickets data set. I think the question was more specifically to like, data sets and whatnot. You can use the data sets, support tickets data set, to build custom messaging reports. You can check that out actually in our Explorer references, Explorer recipes reference material on how to go about to set up those types of queries and dashboards for Zendesk messaging.
Paul, you might have cut out a little bit at the end of that answer, just for like the last 10 seconds.
Sorry, don't know what happened there. Did you hear my bit about recipes?
Yes, we did. Yes.
Okay, so I was just saying that we have some information inside the Help Center on recipes and how to unlock them. And it'll explain to you how to set up queries and dashboards. Inside that reference material, there are some step-by-step instructions on how you can set those up for messaging as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Hey, Devin, we had a question about concurrency.
Yeah, I noticed that Seth asked that question, and we're asking for a little bit more information, unless you have.
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of give an answer, and if further clarification needs to be brought, I'll look into it. But concurrency is different from sort of the chat world, where in chat is based on the concept of a session. So the end user and agent are chatting with each other. That's considered a session, and that takes up a concurrency slot. With messaging, that idea is a little bit different. There's a concept of active messaging conversation. And that would take up a concurrency slot in messaging. That active conversation is defined as, did the end user reply in the last 10 minutes? If so, it takes up an agent slot for concurrency. So once that 10 minutes passes, then the agent slot frees up again. There's another way for that slot to free up though. If the agent responds back to the person, or actually if the agent changes the ticket status to like pending, on hold, or solved, that actually frees up a concurrency slot for messaging as well. So hopefully that helps out with the answer.
So if they're anticipating maybe not a response for a long time due to like a time zone difference, they can just set it to pending to not use that slot.
Yeah, that would free up the slot for the messaging agent.
That's really good to know. Thanks for that, Lawrence. We are running a little bit shorter on time. We're probably going to go over about a good 5-ish minutes. So if people can bear with us for a little extra, that's great. If you have to go, don't worry. We will have a recording of all the answers today. But let's go ahead and move on to the next question. How do I leverage Zendesk messaging to route to Salesforce Live Agent?
Good question. So This isn't necessarily something that's tied in directly to Zendesk messaging, but when we look at messaging, it also encompasses our Sunshine Conversation product, which is powering Zendesk messaging, and I saw a couple of questions about that. Sunshine Conversations is a platform for allowing you to have conversations across different business systems. So for example, if a customer is using Zendesk and Salesforce at the same time and they want to transfer between the two, you are able to do that from a technology perspective. I'll say that we don't have something that's pre-built for Salesforce Live Agent, but we do work with partners who have. So if you are interested in this, please reach out to your AE team. We can work with that, but it is not a simple yes or no question or something that I can just point you to an article. It is something that's a little bit more custom, but it does it does sit on top of our Sunshine Conversations platform, so it is possible. So please reach out and we can get a lot more information on this.
Yeah, it's like
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. Let's move on to the next one. And again, I noticed that we have gotten a few follow-ups in the chat. If you have more follow-ups, please don't be shy. Let us know, because we'll still be able to address them offline if we can't get to them today. But next up is, does messaging support Turkish language in AnswerBot?
I'll take that one. We support 17 different languages for Flow Builder, but Turkish is unfortunately not one of them. So you can actually check. I plan to show this, but I know that we're short on time, so it's something that we can follow up with as well. When you're building your flow, I was assuming, by the way, that this question was related to like Flow Builder and AnswerBot capabilities. When you are inside of Flow Builder and configuring your flow, you can see that there's a settings button that you can press on, which will actually bring up the area through which you can decide which flow you want your language to be published in. And you'll see the full list of languages there.
Okay, moving on to the next question. For messaging, which channels can be integrated? Ooh.
Yeah, I'll take that one as well. I guess like the way that I interpreted that question is like, like when we're thinking about Zendesk messaging as a holistic solution, like what channels are available through it is what I understood the question to be as. So if I've misunderstood the question, please don't hesitate to flag it for me to follow up with you offline to get a bit more information to answer the question specifically. But two things to think about. First is the suite. It allows you to integrate a bunch of channels out of the box without any coding required. Those channels are Zendesk messaging, so what we've been talking about today, the web and mobile SDKs specifically, as well as a number of social channels, where as an admin you can go and configure them. Those social channels are Line, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Viber. And that's what you get out of the box, no coding required. Any admin can go and set those things up straight out of the box with the Zendesk suite. If you want other channels, we do offer, Jacob's been talking quite a bit about Sunshine Conversations. You can get additional channels through Sunshine Conversations as well. So you would need a platform license for that. And it gives you the ability to access even more channels like Apple Business Chat, Google Business Messages. There's Telegram. I think Kakao is in early access mode as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a number of channels that you can also integrate that way. Again, that's how I had interpreted the question. I hope I've answered it correctly. But if I haven't, feel free to let me know and I can get more specific.
Thanks, Paul. So moving on to our next question. With Zendesk messaging, are we able to start a conversation with the customer via all messaging channels?
So that's a good question. It's a little bit tricky as well. So currently customers are able to engage with you on any of the channels. So if it's a person who has an issue that comes to you and says, hey, I have a problem, that will create a ticket regardless of the channel that's coming in. I think the tricky part is, how do I proactively engage the customer in certain situations? And that's where it gets a little bit I'll say tricky, because even in a support environment, a proactive engagement is when you've identified an issue and you're going out to the user proactively to help them out and let them know, hey, I've identified the issue, I'm trying to resolve it. A lot of times when people are looking at messaging, they're also looking at proactivity that's not support related. So something like maybe a shipping notification, or maybe a scheduling change, something that's more automated but proactive. And if a person responds back, then I really want that to be routed to my support team so I can help out. So that's actually where we mentioned Sunshine Conversation earlier, and I'll mention it again for this use case as well. Because Sunshine Conversation is flexible and it's not just a support tool, it is something that's focused on sales, marketing, and being able to integrate in those tools. What we're seeing a lot is customers that are bringing marketing automations tools into the fold. So for example, if a person meets a certain criteria, they're using Sunshine Conversations to reach out proactively via WhatsApp, SMS, and our native widgets because something happened, or maybe a campaign was run. I need to reach out to these individuals. And that starts off a chat for them. That way, when the user comes back, it comes in as a chat and it can be routed to a specific team. As of right now, we don't have anything that's out of the box that allows a person to just go into, for example, Agent Workspace and click on a person's name and says, I want to reach out to them. We don't have that out of the box. It's something we're evaluating. But right now, like I said, for customers who are looking to do this, I'm seeing them more often bring in a tool that is a notification system that maybe is integrated into their backend, or maybe integrated to a marketing automation tool to process that.
Awesome stuff. Thank you. Again, I know that we're really getting close to the end. We're going to try to go ahead and address as many of these questions as possible. If people can stay a little bit later, by all means, please do. If you have to go at 12:45, though, don't worry. We'll go ahead and make sure we have a recording sent to you on the questions that you did not be able to stay for today. But let's go on and move to our next question. Do I need to have Agent Workspace enabled to use Zendesk messaging? I think that's a great question.
The answer is yes. Rapid fire mode. Yes, you do need to have Agent Workspace enabled. It is a part of the Zendesk suite, though. We have details on how to enable it inside of our help center, so we can follow up with that.
Awesome. Simple yes. Love those quick answers. Next question, will agents be able to see previously created requests?
Yeah, I can take that one as well. I feel like we might have ended up inadvertently covering it in other answers, but I'll go over it quickly again anyway. From an end user perspective, like we've been saying, that conversation history, it's persistent, it's ongoing. You pick up where you left off when you want to. That's how the end user sees it. The way that an agent sees it, it's just like any other channel inside of the suite. The notion of tickets still exists and applies to messaging as a channel as well. So, messaging tickets are going to follow a similar ticket logic that you would have implemented for other channels as well. So the ticket is going to stay open until, as an agent, I've decided that I'm satisfied that I fully resolved the issue, and then I'm going to go ahead and follow whatever process I put in place to close it out. And only when a ticket is closed out does a new ticket get created. That doesn't mean that you can no longer see the conversation history of previous interactions, but you're going to do so from within if you're using the Agent Workspace, you'll see it from within the interactions window and in the interactions pane to the right of your Agent Workspace, if that's how you have it set up.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. So for our next question we have, is this what the future of chat is going to be? And is the idea to sunset the chat side of Zendesk?
That's a good question.
Paul, do you want to take the first stab, and I can go?
Sure. Question for sure.
So I think that the plan is that businesses today are using both platforms and sunsetting chat. Sorry. So that's not really near term what our roadmap is. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that or not, Jacob.
Yeah. So I mean, the truth is, I don't think businesses have yet evolved where everybody's saying messaging is my default means of communication. I think different businesses operate differently, and some look at more transactional business differently than personalized experiences. So there are benefits to messaging that businesses are trying to utilize. So something like a personalized experience. I use this analogy a lot between chat and messaging, in that you can go to Macy's or Nordstrom, and I know this is more an American
we're a much
analogy, but at Macy's, at both places, you can buy a pair of jeans. They both sell Levi's. The major difference is that when I walk into a Macy's store, I go in and I pick up the jeans, and maybe somebody will help me, maybe not, and I'm going to check out. If I walk into a Nordstrom, they're going to go, hello, I'm here to help you. Do you need guiding? Do you need help? And it's more of a personalized experience to say, I have this person coming out to reach out to me. Chat is not a personalized experience. It's very hard to personalize it, and it's really... it's an older technology that is designed to be transactional. It's designed to be less personal, but very easy and convenient. What messaging is doing is taking that ease and convenience and now upgrading it to allow you to be more personalized, be more interactive, drive really more the way that a person interacts with you is now not a 5-minute window. It's I want to be associated with your brand over a certain amount of time and have conversations ongoing. And so that shift is happening. We as a product are going to support both until the shift either goes completely messaging or not. From our perspective, there's customers that use both. It is infrastructure that we have for both. We have no short-term plans for it. But if I was a betting person, in terms of how people utilize our software and how people just use messaging and chat together, I have a feeling that the market's going to shift fully into messaging, and people are not going to want the old sync experience of chat. Everybody's going to want messaging a few years from now. We're just not there yet. And so for now, I think as an industry, we're just going to be supporting both.
Excellent. Yeah, that's we know the conversation on chat overall and what's the end outcome for it. It's going to be an ongoing conversation. I will say from a Zendesk side of things, if we do make any major decisions on that, there will be plenty amount of warning and heads up and documentation letting people know that we're going to be making a major shift. But as of right now, as Jacob and Paul described, both will be supported for the foreseeable future. And I believe that was our last question. Oh, no, it was not our last question. How do external chatbot providers integrate with Zendesk messaging? We do have a couple
because messaging is built on top of Sunshine Conversations as a platform, that platform capability is extended to bots as well. And so for anybody who wants to have a chatbot, there is a add-on to your messaging license that you're able to get to bring in any chatbot provider, including homegrown systems. So it's not restricted to maybe a handful of them. It's anything and anything can come in. But that's where when we look at our Flow Builder and our AnswerBot offering, I suggest for customers to look at that and see if it meets your needs. If it doesn't, and you need something more robust, or maybe you have your homegrown, you want to utilize that as part of the conversation, that is where our Sunshine Conversations platform comes into play, and we have a specific bot license that we can discuss with you.
Excellent. And I believe we're going to be moving to our last question now, which might spur up a little bit of conversation.
I think that's the same one as the earlier one.
It's very similar to the same one as earlier. And is messaging replacing chat? If so, what does the product roadmap look like? We definitely addressed the first part of it. I don't know if we have anything else we can share on the product roadmap at this time that we haven't discussed already.
Well, I mean, like I said, messaging is the future, and that's where our investment dollars are going in. We're going to continue to strengthen the messaging offering, along with really building a narrative for companies who want to use messaging outside of support. So, for example, we talk a lot with customers who want to use messaging for sales, messaging for marketing, and that's where when we look at our offering and how we look at where we fit into market, that's where we're going to be expanding into. But from a product roadmap, there's still things that are in Sunshine Conversations that are currently not in the core product that we're going to be working towards bringing in. So I think the immediate product roadmap thing feel is, if you see something in Sunshine Conversation that you think is sexy and cool, please feel free to ask us specifically about those things and when they're coming, because we have a better idea of when those pieces are coming. But in terms of innovating in the marketplace and really impacting a business holistically from a messaging perspective, that's something that we are putting together and introducing as those things are rolled out.
Awesome. Well, we are 5 minutes over, but we were able to get through all the questions that we were ready and prepared to answer today. I know there were some questions that weren't addressed that were asked, especially some that were addressed a couple hours from now, or a couple hours ago, right before the event started. We're going to be taking some time over the next couple days to get those questions answered. And as I said before, we're going to have a document posted in the Zendesk Help Center covering everything that was asked today, including in the Q&A section and in the chat. If you have questions on Zendesk messaging that you didn't have addressed today, please go ahead and let us know, either by posting in the community or on the Help Center article that we're going to be creating in the next couple days. And then we will be sending a recording of this event to everyone who registered as well. To our experts on Zendesk messaging, thanks so much for joining us, for Paul, for 2 events covering this this topic that a lot of people are excited about. And thanks everyone who joined us today for explaining in depth where messaging is going and what it can and can't do, and why it's worth looking into. We'll be having some more events coming up in the future. Our next event's actually going to be on KCS best practices and guide from our self-service team. So stay tuned for that. More information is coming soon. But overall, thanks everyone for attending. Thanks to our experts for answering some really great questions from our users. And we'll see you next week with another event. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.